Celebrating this milestone year in the Universal Church with stories of faith and hope from around the Diocese of Rochester. Here's your host, Gina Capellazzi, digital content producer at the Catholic Courier.
The month of September means back to school, but it also means the start of a new catechetical year in the Church. Catechetical Sunday, which is celebrated on the third Sunday in September, was established to recognize and celebrate the gift that catechists bring to their parish communities. This year, Catechetical Sunday also happens just a few days before the Church in Rome celebrates the Jubilee of Catechists. Later, I'll be talking with two of my colleagues who volunteer their time as a catechist teaching the faith to their children and other children. They will also be sharing some of the catechetical resources that the Catholic Courier offers. But first, to help us better understand how faith is taught to children in the Diocese of Rochester, I'm joined by Leslie Barkin, Director of the Office of Evangelization Catechesis. So welcome, Leslie.
Thank you.
So maybe first we can start with what is catechesis and what is like the domestic church and how catechesis is taught maybe?
Sure. So catechesis is the lifelong process by which we form disciples. The word catechesis comes from a Greek word that means to echo. So essentially in catechesis, we are echoing the truths of our faith that have been passed down from generation to generation, beginning with Jesus himself.
So when does faith formation usually begin for children?
In our diocese, it typically begins around kindergarten or first grade, but ideally, the hope is that we begin it in the pre-K years, and that in that space right after baptism, we start to empower and equip parents as the primary catechist of their children, and we give them strategies to build what we call the domestic church. That's sharing the faith in their home.
Now, we have a lot of different catechetical models that our parishes can use. Can you explain some of these that we see in our parishes?
Sure. So we have the classroom model, which is the model that most of us are familiar with. It's what we experienced in CCD when we were children, and that is a school model that relies on a lot of volunteers who serve as catechists, and it's typically done with lecture-based table activities kind of program. And then we have Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, which is a process that is very hands-on. Children enter into a relationship with Jesus by learning about Scripture, experiencing a lot of prayer, learning more about the Mass, and it's done with a lot of manipulative so that they can act out what is being talked about in the faith. We have summer intensive models used by parishes. That's a great way for churches to connect over an extended period of time with young people, and it gives them the ability to have possibly a classroom model for part of the day, but then there's an opportunity for a lot more movement, hands-on experiences, larger projects, mass, prayer, a lot of ways to shift and learn during the day. And then some of our parishes do a home study program, and a home study is typically done either through a group that gathers and then learns at home, or it's done with some kind of model that connects back to the parish.
Are you seeing these in all of our parishes? Which one seems to be more, the one maybe that more of our parishes use?
Sure. The classroom model is probably used most often, but what's really emerging as the ideal model for faith formation is the family formation model. And we're seeing a lot more of that in our parishes. And we're excited about that because that really works to equip the parents, empower the parents as the primary catechists. In many situations, it gives them a connection back to church and back to the Mass, where they may have fallen away with the busyness of their lives. It gives them language to be able to talk about faith and share faith, not only in that formation setting, but all of the time in their home. And it lets us catechize the adults in our parishes much more effectively. Yeah. All of the studies show that parents who are great role models of the faith for their children are more likely to have kids that practice the faith as they continue on in their adult lives. So family formation is a witness of parents practicing the faith to their kids.
Yeah, so it's not just the parents dropping off the kids for the classes, the parents are involved in it, is right?
Right.
And there are also programs that are tailored to kids who have special needs as well?
Yes, that has been a big focus of our office over the past few years. A lot of our publishers have come out with great materials that are adapted for different abilities. We're finding that we need to equip our catechists in better ways. So we've been doing a lot more training in that area and providing resources from our office so that we can make sure that we meet the needs of every student.
I was going to ask about the training. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the training required for catechists and what your office provides for them.
Sure. We're very excited to have partnered with Franciscan at Home, which is through Franciscan University, the Catechetical Institute. This provides us with over 200 workshops that train people in ministry. So there are learning tracks especially for catechists, and it's an opportunity that we haven't been able to offer on such a large scale before. So we're really excited about that. In addition to Franciscan at Home, we offer 4 Zoom workshops to catechists throughout the year, and that gives us the ability to meet catechists from around the diocese and to connect and communicate with them. We invite catechists and our professional leaders to development and workshops and retreats throughout the year as well that we put on with speakers both from our diocese and from around the country.
So who can be a catechist?
Well, that's a great question. Anybody can be a catechist, but what we're hoping is that the first quality of someone who would like to be a catechist is someone who loves the faith and is excited about teaching it to others. Most important thing that we can do in catechesis is to evangelize. So we want people to be excited about their faith. And we'll provide training, but having that love for the faith and the desire to share it with others is the first step. And then we have to remember that as catechists, we are sometimes the face of God to the people that we serve. So we want to think about the way that we're interacting. We want to really focus on building the relationship with the people that we're serving. We want to come into it with an open heart. We want to come into it with a good listening ear. We want to hear their stories and be ready to share our own stories of faith. And we want to be able to walk that journey with them.
Formation isn't just for children. We should be learning, lifelong learning as adults too. So what sort of resources does your office have for adult faith formation and adult learning?
Absolutely. I am a big believer in lifelong learning. None of us have figured it all out as disciples, so we have to continue to explore our faith and connect. Our parishes do a great job of providing opportunities for the adults that they serve, and we support them through resources. A lot of them use that Franciscan at Home program to work with adults in their parishes. They also connect with us through experiencing things like the men's and women's conferences that are coming up that we're working with other departments on. And we have a great website of resources. We have a lending library, so people can connect to us if they want to keep learning. And the leaders in our parishes can reach out to us for different methods and models and resources that might be helpful in what they do with adults.
So talk about some of these resources that you said. Where can people find them? I know you guys are sending out a lot of different information on a weekly basis.
Absolutely. So two of the things that we do that I'm very proud of are we have a Family Zone newsletter, and that was created during quarantine for people to be able to continue practicing the faith in their home. And what it now serves as is a way to equip parents in their role as primary catechists. So it comes out bi-monthly, and it gives them ideas for faith sharing. It gives them ideas for faith-based family time, new ways to pray, connections to the scripture, and so forth. And then we also have a newsletter for our volunteers in the parishes, and that's called ECHO. And ECHO equips our catechists. It gives them ways to celebrate the liturgical year. It gives them connections to new methods and to new materials that are out there. And it makes sure that we have a constant pathway to those people that are volunteering in the parishes. So that goes directly to our catechists, and it's a great way that we can serve the adults who want to continue learning and sharing their faith.
So can anyone sign up for those?
Absolutely. They're all subscription-based, but we send them to our parishes as well, and our parishes provide them either through their weekly emails or on their websites.
Okay. So is there anything else that you would like to share about catechesis and faith formation here at the Diocese of Rochester?
Well, just as we celebrate Catechetical Sunday, and we have this wonderful opportunity to celebrate catechists in the Universal Church through the Jubilee, both of them have a theme of hope, Catechetical Sunday and the Jubilee. And I am always very hope-filled about the people who step up and serve both the youth and adults in our parishes. I am extremely grateful, and I know that the bishop, who is the chief catechist of our diocese, often remarks about his gratitude for the people who serve as catechists. We know that it takes a lot of effort and energy and long hours, and we're just very grateful for their yes and their willingness to share the faith and keep echoing it to future generations.
Well, thank you, Leslie, for joining me. And when we come back, I'll be joined by my two colleagues who are both catechists at their parishes.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you. Get the news in your inbox when you sign up for Catholic Courier e-newsletters. Stay up to date on Jubilee year 2025 and all the other news and events from the Diocese of Rochester with Monday e-news, Thursday weekend, and Saturday reflection emails. To sign up, email us at latestnews@catholiccourier.com. Welcome back. I'm now joined by two of my colleagues, Jennifer Burke and Jennifer Ficcaglia, who both have children at home and have also volunteered their time as catechists. So welcome, Jens, to the podcast. So my first question for you is, how did you guys get involved in faith formation at your parishes? Who wants to start first?
Well, my oldest son started faith formation in 2011. And because we live out in the middle of nowhere, I live in the Finger Lakes, and we go to a rural parish. It takes a little time to get to church and back, so I got a hold of the faith formation director, and I said, do you mind if I hang out? Because it's just going to be 10 minutes there to drop him off, 10 minutes back, come back and do the same thing in an hour. I'm going to be on the road for like 40 minutes. So I'm like, I can help out in the classroom. And she said, I actually blogged about this. We can maybe give the link to that.
Oh, yeah.
I said, why don't I help out? And she said, oh, bless you, Jen. Why don't you teach a class? And so it was definitely not what I had expected. I'm like, oh, well, why don't I do that? I had no good excuse not to. And we had just started homeschooling at the time as well. So I'm like, well, if I can homeschool my children with other coursework, I should be able to help my children and other children learn the faith. So I kind of got roped into it, but it was a happy thing. It was a happy thing. I was very glad that I did it. But it was not my idea.
What about you, Jen?
It was my idea, but it wasn't, it was not quite an accident, but almost. For my daughter's faith formation, the parents were told that you should either go to the parent session or you could help out or teach. And I thought, well, I'm going to be there anyway. I like to be involved with my kids' activities and I like talking about my faith, so I'll help out in the classroom. So that's kind of how that got started.
So you really guys were it just kind of happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, parishes are always looking for volunteers, and I guess we looked like we wanted to do that. So obviously, I mean, look where we work. I mean, we're teaching people about the faith all the time through our own jobs. So why can't we? Although it's a little disconcerting when you're thinking about doing it with children, because they're blank slates, and you want to make sure that you're giving them the foundation that they need, because they're going to build on that for the rest of their life. So it's a little disconcerting at first, but I think at least, in my instance, the faith formation director just made us feel very comfortable, and, that we could do it, and we all did it together. So
Our faith formation coordinator has been very accepting of where our comfort levels are too, because I said I was not prepared to teach. I just feel the thought of putting together a lesson plan just feels completely out of my comfort zone. So I will help in the classroom and I will contribute, anything that they need, but I'm not the main teacher, and they're totally fine with that.
You are both parents, and we've said parents are the first teachers of the faith to their children. So how have you taught your children at home the faith, and then maybe how have you incorporated it into the classroom setting when you've taught other children?
I can take that one first. So we've got 4 kids, and we've brought them all to church their whole lives. They were just a couple days old when they started going to Mass with us at first, so it's been a constant in their lives. And we do the normal things you would expect. We do grace before meals, we do bedtime prayers, we try to, think about, okay, if someone asks for prayers, we'll incorporate that in bedtime prayers. And we've done some little things throughout the day. If we hear a siren, what can we do? We can stop and pray. And I think that kind of got started at first because the kids were scared when they heard sirens. So we kind of turned it into a moment where we can do something instead of feeling helpless. And just to know that God is always there for all of us. So those are a lot of the things that we do. We try to talk about things in the car, what we're worried about on the way to school, and sometimes we'll pray about those things. And at dinner, sometimes we'll do something I learned in youth group when I was a kid, high point, low point, closest moment to God for the day, and they seem to like doing that. So.
Oh, it's all great stuff. Yeah, we do similar things. And like I said, we homeschool, or did. They're graduated now. But when they were faith formation age, we were homeschooling, and it was a lifestyle. You are always learning. That's my husband and I are lifelong learners, and we tried to pass that on to our kids. And we are always talking about faith. And a lot of times it's intentional, like what Jen was saying. You're bringing them to Mass, you're teaching them to pray, you're praying before bed, meals and things like that. But a lot of it is unintentional moments where just something comes up in daily life. Obviously, I'm a news junkie, and so is my husband. So there's a lot of things in the world that, the kids need to learn about through the lens of faith. And so we just talk a lot with the kids, and it always winds back up to faith, because we're teaching them, you love God and you love people. And how do you do that? How do you take that into your life and lead your life, based on those things? So, and one of the things that we did do intentionally, I happened to write our children's catechetical column for the Catholic Courier. It's called Kids Chronicle. And I would read that to the kids. It's just it's a kids page, and it has several elements on it. And it's just a nice, short faith lesson. So I would read that to the kids when they were younger, and then when they were older, they would read it themselves. And we also have an essay portion. So we actually have an essay contest. My kids obviously can't participate in the contest, but I'm a mean mom, so I would make them answer the essay question anyway. It was a good little writing assignment because it's, cap it at 100 words. You really got to think about what you want to say because you only have 100 words to do it in. So we would purposefully use that. Do you want me to talk a little bit about?
Yeah, go ahead. And how people can access it. How often does it come out? Those sorts of things.
Yeah, so Kids Chronicle, the Courier's had Kids Chronicle since 1985. Wow. It started out under a different name and with a little less content, but over the years it has grown and expanded. And since 1993, what you see in the paper now has been in effect since 1993. And we had a freelance writer, Joe Sarnicola, who was the longtime Kids Chronicle writer, and I took over from him about a decade or so ago when he retired. So it's a full page that has about 5 elements on it. The main element is a children's Bible story. So we're retelling the story from the Kids Chronicle issues are based on the second and fourth Sundays of the month. So we're retelling a Bible story from those scripture readings. Sometimes we'll go into the week rather than the Sunday readings, depending on what's in the daily cycle, because sometimes there are some good stories in the daily cycle that don't come up in the Sunday cycle, so we'll hit those. Linda Jean Rivers, who was our longtime graphic artist who retired a couple years ago, has been the longtime illustrator for Kids Chronicle. So there's a really excellent and colorful, beautiful illustration that goes with each of these issues. She's still working with us on a freelance basis now that she's retired, so she's still her artistic hand in Kids Chronicle. So she and I work together to find a good story that we haven't shared, or something that can be nicely illustrated. So that's the main part, and then we take a little nugget from the story, and we do a little sidebar called Bible Accent. So, for example, one time I wrote about Jesus calming the storm at sea. So the nugget I took out of that was, he and the apostles were on the Sea of Galilee. Well, let's learn a little bit more about the Sea of Galilee. And I went to an encyclopedia and studied about the Sea of Galilee and found out that because of the sea's elevation and where it is geographically, it is extremely common for these huge storms to just kick up out of nowhere. So that's why you think, it's just random that they happen to be out in the boat and there was this big storm. Well, no, it's not random. It's something that's very common. So that's something that kids can learn a little bit more about. There's always a little mini bio on a saint. And we usually have a puzzle. And the first issue of the month, we have the essay. So, and then we run a contest. So we do publish Kids Chronicle, not only on our website, but also in print. And we run an essay contest, and you can enter to win a prize. And the second issue of the month has a trivia question. And so those are the different things. And I try to have this little thread of learning that goes through all of the elements, and it makes sense as a package. And you can get everything on our website back to, I think, 2003 or 2004. Mm-hmm. So I think Jen haven't you tried looking things up for faith formation before?
Yes,
and seen
we've definitely used that. When the classroom I was helping in, we were talking about Lent, and we had used something, I forgot exactly what it was. It might not have been specifically Kids Chronicle, but we used a video, I think, that the Courier had produced to kind of explain Lent to the class, and they loved it.
Definitely Kids Chronicle is not the only children's catechetical things that we have. And not just for children, really, like when I said that my husband and I are lifelong learners, you're supposed to be a lifelong learner. You're supposed to be a lifelong learner of your faith. Faith formation doesn't stop when you age out of children's faith formation. So to that end, in 2001, the Courier created something called Why Do Catholics? And it's a series of stories that, we talk about what Catholics believe and why we do the things that we do. And, some of our most recent ones have been about why do Catholics venerate martyrs? Why do we venerate saints? We talk about why we do make crownings, and just different things that we can share that people may not know, well, definitely children may not know about, and they can learn more about, but it's about recatechizing people as well. It's like, I haven't really thought about why I do this as a Catholic. And it just kind of refreshes your memory, and it just underscores that lifelong learning about your faith. It's not just rote things. You need to do things with intention and realize why it is we do what we do and believe what we believe. So those also are all on our website. And that must be one of the things that you had looked at probably
I believe
too.
it was,
So.
yeah.
And we also have wire contents that it's called Faith Alive that we have on our website that our wire service produces. So that is topical. Sometimes it's seasonal. Sometimes it's on a specific topic.
Yeah.
But it's always a lifelong faith formation.
Yeah. I know. Recently they just did some saints with the canonization happening. So we had one on Carlo and one on Pier Giorgio. But yeah, that's another.
Yeah. So we have a wealth of things on our website, that we offer to help people with their faith. So yeah, we have all of these, faith formation type of things for children and for adults. I think people are hungry for that type of stuff because I think people maybe feel a little inadequate when they're talking about their faith, especially when they're trying to pass it on to their children. Because like I said, that whole blank slate thing, you want to make sure that they have a firm foundation in the faith because one day they're going to teach it to their children and so on and so on. So because there is so much information, not only what the Courier has, but how the diocese supports catechists who are on staff and then the volunteers, I would urge anybody, and probably Jen would say the same thing, don't be afraid to teach your children, to teach other people's children, because there's a lot of support out there. There's a lot of information. And, I would say if someone asks you, say yes. Don't feel like you're being roped into it. It may feel a little disconcerting at first, but it's a lot of fun. And especially to see little kids learning and hearing them say prayers and things like that, it really does your heart good, and you're doing something good and helping people.
I would completely agree. I was nervous the first week, terrified maybe would be a better word, but it was a great experience. So I'm going to be doing it again this year, and we were with junior high kids, middle school kids.
Okay.
So I wasn't sure how that would be, but it was really fun, not only to get to know my daughter's peers, but to help them to be able to relate to me as someone they can trust, but also to see them grow in their faith and learn and connect with the lead teacher in our classroom and just talk about what inspires them about the faith. Sometimes middle schoolers pretend that they're too cool and they don't really care. Yeah. And it was fun to, as the year went on, to be able to see them open up and share what really touched them. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a catechist per se or anything, but I do youth ministry at my parish, and so I totally agree with you on that whole thing about middle schoolers too cool and all of that, but I do enjoy seeing them grow in their faith. Well, thank you, Jens, for joining me on the podcast today. You can visit all the links that the Jens and Leslie mentioned, along with links about Jubilee year 2025 in the description below this video. Or if you're listening to the audio-only version of this episode, you can find the links in the description below your podcast player. Thank you for joining the Courier's Jubilee 2025 Pilgrims of Hope podcast. The next episode is on Marian spirituality and comes out on October 23rd.